What if one archaeological discovery could end civilization as we know it? What if the person standing between humanity and extinction wasn't a hero but a monster? This is the story of Yanhao, a young man cursed with the very power that destroyed his world. In a city consumed by crimson fog, where humans transform into beasts and death lurks around every corner, he faces an impossible choice: embrace the monster within to save those he loves, or lose his humanity forever. Welcome to a world where survival means becoming what you fear most. Once a thriving metropolis, the city had been reduced to nothing but shattered ruins. Who could have imagined that an archaeological excavation of mysterious relics would trigger an ancient seal, unleashing disaster upon all of humanity? An eerie blood-red mist spread rapidly across cities, and humans enveloped by it could not withstand the mutation. They went mad and died suddenly, without explanation. Most other creatures transformed into terrifying forms with demonic powers, becoming mutated beasts. At that moment, a lone figure stood tall amid the ruins, clothes tattered. One hand appeared normal, while the other had deformed into a beast's claw as he faced the powerful mutated. Creatures before him, wherever these packs of mutated beasts appeared, cities turned to rubble. Humans had to confront ferocious creatures that previously existed only in fiction, and fear spread like a plague. Above in the sky, a military helicopter thundered past, continuously dropping bombs and annihilating the mutated beasts. With a roar, flames blazed brightly, filling the sky. Dust and smoke scattered, obscuring everyone's vision. When the smoke cleared, a figure was barely visible, breathing heavily and painfully. Yanhao muttered a single name. Several mutated wolves growled and advanced toward him. Yanhao seemed possessed, his eyes bloodshot and bloodthirsty, fangs bared fiercely. He asked the emptiness where his sister was, like a raging beast. Using his clawed hand, he attacked the wolves, scratching and tearing their flesh. He looked even stronger than those deadly, dangerous mutated beasts. Blood boiled within Yanhao's body, dripping and falling around him. When he looked back, there was no longer any sign of the mutated beasts. Only desolate ruins remained. He sighed deeply, muttering his sister's name softly as he wandered throughout the ruined city, calling out as he went. He walked everywhere tirelessly, searching for a familiar figure, until suddenly he spotted a cloth doll lying tossed by the roadside. Yanhao stopped, knelt before the doll, and whispered gently to Shiao and Snow. His blood-beast hand reached out to touch the doll's face. He startled, withdrawing the hideous clawed hand. Trembling slightly as he reached out again to touch the doll's face with his human hand, Yanhao wept. His face had returned to normal, revealing a handsome young man. A tear flowed like the profound agony simmering in his heart. He shouted into the emptiness. His world seemed to collapse without loved ones by his side. He asked the ruins where she was. 3 days prior, the city's traffic had been bustling. The radio reported that numerous places were covered by a natural phenomenon of red fog. People were urged not to panic, to stay indoors, and to limit unnecessary outdoor activities. Shiao and Yanhao were dozing in the vehicle when suddenly a soldier knocked urgently on the window, ordering them to move immediately. Yanhao was awakened abruptly from his dream. He muttered about the army being deployed. His father scolded the politicians, saying they couldn't be trusted. The man grumbled that they had already deployed the military, yet still claimed it was some natural disaster. Shiao, sitting in the back seat, fearfully nestled into her brother's arms, telling him she was scared. Yanhao comforted her, assuring her they were all there together. But the unease in his heart made him turn to glance outside for a moment. With such a loud commotion, when he saw the blood-red fog spreading, he quietly wondered what exactly the red mist was. Still dazed, a loud explosion came from above. A car was thrown off the overpass, falling onto the road. Yanhao was startled when he saw it fall right in front of their vehicle. Without thinking twice, he grabbed his sister and shouted loudly for everyone to get down quickly. With a loud crash, the falling car slammed onto their vehicle, the strong impact crushing both cars. After the shaking subsided, Yanhao looked up and asked the 2 people in the front seat if they were okay. Their father, sitting in the driver's seat, guarding his wife, had his head bleeding from the collision. He groaned that his leg was trapped. His wife coughed a few times, asking what had happened, before they could clarify the situation. The roar of a beast sounded nearby. The elderly couple startled in worry, while Shiao anxiously looked outside. Yanhao was confused, desperate to find an answer about what was happening. A giant mutant beast was being surrounded and attacked by the military. His voice trembled as he asked what the creature was. Everyone abandoned their cars and ran, loud screams filling the air. People shouted about a beast being nearby. Seeing this, their father urged his 2 children to quickly get out of the car. Yanhao kicked the already broken car door forcefully, and he and Shiao struggled to crawl out. Then he tried to break the door on the passenger side where their mother was sitting, but she stopped him, telling him to take the child and leave regardless of them. He was unwilling to let go of the door, insisting he couldn't leave them and would save his parents. At that moment, another bizarre beast appeared nearby. A passerby shouted loudly for help. Shiao saw the monster, trembling as she covered her mouth, trying not to make a noise that would attract attention. The mother grabbed Yanhao's hand and instructed him to go quickly. The father smiled encouragingly, saying he needed to be responsible like a man, and reminded him that he was the older brother. The mother, tears in her eyes, looked at the 2 children, urging them to take good care of Shi before they could say anything further. A bizarre beast suddenly leapt onto their car, throwing Yanhao and Shiao a short distance away. The gaunt wolf-like beast growled loudly, completely indifferent to the fact that it had just taken the lives of his parents. Shiao was heartbroken, thinking of her parents. The beast bared its fangs and looked toward her as if checking which tiny human had just yelled at it. Yanhao pulled his sister away, telling her they had to go, while she continued to look back at the car crushed beneath the beast, thinking of her parents. It wasn't just beasts on the ground flying. Bizarre beasts were also a threat to aerial vehicles. Planes and helicopters were all destroyed by them. In this ruined city, blood-colored fog enveloped everything. Animals and humans were all going mad. Only 2 figures ran away together. Yanhao still couldn't understand what was going on. He only knew to lead his sister somewhere as safe as possible. They ran into an abandoned supermarket, but the mutated beasts had already caught their scent and were approaching. Inside, a wolf patrolled with cunning eyes, searching for prey. Yanhao held Shiao in his arms and covered her mouth, whispering for her to be quiet. He waited until the noise subsided before slightly peeking out. At that moment, the mutated wolf had left. Yanhao leaned against the food shelf, sighed, and thought it was gone. Suddenly, red streaks appeared on Xiao's face. She painfully held her head. Seeing his sister's unusual condition, he became worried, asking what was wrong. She clutched her head weakly and murmured that she felt terrible. Looking into a nearby mirror, he saw that both his and his sister's faces bore strange red patterns like veins. Panic surged within him as he wondered if this was what was happening. The dense red fog intensified, and Yanhao also noticed something abnormal in his body. He wondered if it could be from absorbing too much of the red fog. He hurriedly grabbed a cloth, stoned some water from the shelf, and poured water onto the cloth. He brought it up to cover Xiao's nose and mouth, hoping she would inhale less fog, quickly telling her to use it to cover her nose. However, he forgot to worry about himself. Red veins throbbed on his face, and his eyes gradually reddened as well. Yanhao felt his body burning intensely, streams of red and black energy continuously spilling out from him. It was so hot something inside him was relentlessly escaping outward. His abnormality frightened Shiao, who quickly asked if he was okay. He reassured her that he was fine, yet his right hand trembled uncontrollably, showing he was not. Yanhao was troubled in his heart, silently commanding himself to stop. The sounds of the two were overheard by the mutated wolf, which slowly circled around toward their side. Yanhao shouted for it to stop. His strangeness made Shiao tremble as she told him not to scare her. The wolf stepped forward, growling as it looked at the 2 siblings. Yanhao clenched his twitching hand tightly, silently thinking this was bad and they had been discovered. Without further thought, he grabbed his sister and told her to come on as they ran outside. If you're hooked on Yanhao's desperate fight for survival and want to see how he masters the beast within, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story only gets more intense from here, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when he's forced to make the ultimate choice between humanity and power. Subscribe now. The two ran out of the supermarket into the vast city under an ominous sky. There would definitely be places for them to hide, but fate had other plans. A grotesque mutated bird landed right in front of them. In front was the bird, behind was the wolf. Yanhao was frightened, exclaiming that there was another one. Shiao whimpered, asking her brother what they should do now. Being a good older brother, Yanhao held his sister protectively in his arms and told her not to be afraid because he was there. But at that moment, another beast appeared. It looked like a dragon and seemed to be the leader of the monstrous creatures. It landed powerfully right behind the two siblings, its massive form intimidating the other mutated beasts into caution. The two siblings fell into despair. Yanhao wondered if they were really going to die there that day. Surrounded by the pack of mutated beasts, he hurriedly led his sister Shiao, running back inside the abandoned supermarket, telling her to go ahead first. The girl was worried, but in fact, there were also mutated beasts inside the supermarket, wandering and searching for prey. Yanhao picked up a wooden stick from the ground without having time to explain to his sister, because the situation outside was even more dangerous. He could only try and see what happened. Without further words, he charged forward, swinging the stick at the mutated wolf, wanting to bash the beast's head. The wolf opened its mouth wide and crushed the wooden stick in Yanhao's hands. It didn't stop there. The wolf opened its mouth wide, showing its sharp fangs, aiming to clamp down on Yanhao's head. He could only whisper that he was done for, but Yanhao couldn't die. He still had to protect Shiao. He twisted his body to dodge, but was pushed back by the beast, his back slamming into a shelf inside the supermarket. In that critical moment, an arrow suddenly flew from somewhere and struck the wolf's eye. It howled in pain violently. Yanhao looked back and saw his sister holding a crossbow. Shiao looked at him with deep concern, saying she came to help him. He thanked her, but the mutated wolf ignored him and lunged at Shiao, the very person who had blinded one of its eyes. Yanhao shouted in panic for her to run quickly. She immediately obeyed, turning around and running as his voice echoed in her ears, telling her not to look back. After saying that, he coughed up blood. The burning heat surged through his whole body, blood ascending, veins reddening along his face. Yanhao leaned against the wall, clutching his chest in pain, his body trembling, his voice weak and unwilling as he asked why it had to be happening now. On the other side, Shiao ran only a short distance before stumbling. The mutated beast was closing in right behind her, just one step away from devouring her. Yanhao couldn't bear to watch this scene. Somehow, he summoned enough strength to crush the reinforced concrete wall, and a heartbreaking scream echoed out as he called his sister's name. Immediately after, the wall collapsed, crushing the mutated wolf beneath it. The thunderous crash shook the entire mall. Yanhao leapt onto the fallen wall, his blood boiling. He seemed transformed into another person, bloodthirsty and fierce. Holding a metal rod in his hand, he hissed for it to die as he plunged the metal rod into the wolf's head. Fresh blood and the beast's crimson energy spilled out, while Yanhao raged like a demon from hell. He kept stabbing the metal rod down relentlessly. Though the beast was dead, its body still paid the price alongside Yanhao's loss of control. He kept shouting for it to die. Xiao's heart ached, seeing her brother lose control like this. She called out to him, ran over and hugged Yanhao, asking what was wrong with him and begging him to stop and not be like this. He hesitated for a few seconds, ceasing his attack, but still hadn't returned to normal. Tears welled up in Xiao's eyes as she told him she was okay and pleaded for him to stop. Some memories flashed in Yanhao's mind, his mother urging him to take his sister away quickly, to leave immediately. The kind father's words of admonition before the disaster struck, telling him to bear the responsibilities of a man and reminding him he was the older brother. The mother's heartfelt reminder to take good care of Shiao. His parents in heaven had spirits watching over them. At this moment, they appeared vividly in Yana's mind. His father scolded him affectionately, saying that no matter where he was, he was always taking care of them, and reminding Yanhao that he must live well with Shiao in the darkness. A sobbing voice called to Yanhao, like a lighthouse shining the way, asking what was wrong with him and begging him not to be like this. Yanhao calmed down, no longer wild as before, and spoke his sister's name. The girl lifted her head to look at her brother, her eyes brimming with tears as she called out to him. Yanhao patted his sister's shoulder and smiled reassuringly, apologizing for making her worry. Shiao sought confirmation, asking if he was all right now, just as Yanhao began to speak, saying he was not before he could finish. A mutated bird flung itself at the supermarket's glass door with its mouth wide open. Quick as lightning, Yanhao grabbed Shiao and jumped to the side. Shouting about the danger, the mutated bird flapped its wings noisily, opened its huge beak, and greedily stared at the siblings as if they were juicy prey. Yanhao grabbed a metal rod and swung it like a baseball bat, cursing at the creature as he struck its face. The metal clashed against the bird's bony beak. He roared for it to stay away from his little sister. Where Yanhao found the strength, nobody knew. But that single hit really sent the mutated bird flying out of the supermarket as he told it to back off. Dust flew everywhere. The recent impact had shattered the supermarket wall. Yanhao spoke, advising his younger sister to hide there while he went to deal with the monsters. The girl wasn't very reassured about him facing it alone. Yanhao explained that the gigantic monster had its eyes on them, and he had to lure it away somewhere else. Shiao held him tightly, telling him not to go because she was afraid he might become like he was before. Yanhao stroked his sister's head, assuring her not to worry, and promising that this time he wouldn't lose control. Faced with this terrifying reality, the girl couldn't feel secure. Still, Yanhao pressed his forehead to hers, his warm voice bringing a sense of safety, as he told her to stay there and wait for him, promising he would come back to get her soon. Shiao had to compromise, making her brother promise that he would definitely return safely. Yanhao smiled brightly, assuring her that of course he would come back safely to pick her up. The dust gradually cleared, though the red fog still spread. A figure stepped out from inside the shattered supermarket wall. Yanhao held an iron rod as a weapon, muttering to himself that if he wasn't mistaken, killing the mutated beasts and absorbing the blood aura from them could make him stronger and his power would grow. He looked at the giant mutated beast before him and pointed the iron rod at it, declaring that as long as he killed it, he should have enough power to protect his loved ones. Yanhao shouted loudly for it to die, but instead of engaging him directly, the pack of mutated wolves around immediately charged. Yanhao realized one thing he still didn't deserve for the leader: to deal with him personally, but he didn't pay much attention. He swung his iron rod and struck the head of the nearest wolf, thinking he would kill them one by one. Next came another blow to the head of the following wolf. The sound of the skull cracking was heard clearly. The third one was smarter, attacking Yanhao from behind and biting the arm holding his weapon. Yanhao squeezed its nose tightly and cursed the beasts. His two arms transformed into wolf claws, allowing him to easily tear apart the mutant wolf's body. His roar was even more powerful than any mutant beast's as he shouted for them all to die. Yanhao felt the power flowing through his body and laughed wildly, exclaiming that this was what power felt like, and it was absolutely amazing. At that moment, a military plane flew across the sky. The mutant beast leader glanced up slightly upon noticing it, then let out a loud howl and flew away. The other mutant wolves did the same, leaving Yanhao standing there dumbfounded and alone. The frenzy in his eyes gradually faded. He looked at his mutated hands, confused about what was happening and what had occurred to him at that exact moment. A bomb dropped from above, targeting the spot where Yanhao was standing just then. Someone who shouldn't have been there appeared. Shiao, hearing the commotion, ran out to check, asking if he was okay. Yanhao anxiously stopped her, telling her not to go outside. With a loud boom, the bomb exploded, lighting up the sky, sending up thick smoke and fire, and shaking several nearby buildings. A large helicopter flew across the sky overhead. Yanhao struggled to open his eyes but couldn't do anything. He only heard someone giving orders, saying the person had been poisoned, and to just ignore it. His little sister was taken away. Yanhao's vision blurred again. The last image was of Shiao being taken away. He could only stretch out his deformed hand toward the helicopter in the sky, helplessly whispering his sister's name. 6 months later, the painful images and remorse kept surfacing. He heard his sister's voice asking why he didn't come to save her. Yanhao screamed in panic, calling out her name and shouting no. He woke up gasping for breath, his hands still reaching out into the empty void. He painfully held his head, cursing himself and lamenting that it was that dream again. Half a year had passed, and he wondered where on earth she was. After a long while, he finally regained his composure, grateful that he hadn't been discovered. Outside was still a scene of devastation. Yanhao remembered clearly that when Shiao was taken by those people, he searched all the local refugee camps, but there was no news of her. To find his sister, he joined the lowest border patrol unit in the army, becoming a low-ranking soldier. In this chaotic era, only in the military could he collect information and travel everywhere. His stream of memories flowed on. At a border post at this moment, Yanhao stood before a man with a cigarette in his mouth, none other than Gujan, the captain of the city patrol team. He scratched his head awkwardly and spoke some polite words, apologizing for being late for his shift. Someone next to them whispered scornfully that it was that useless rookie again. But Gujan was less gentle. He kicked Yanhao sharply in the rear and asked where he had been slacking off, reminding him that he was told to stand watch and look how late he was. Yanhao didn't dare to argue, replying that he was wrong. A moment later, Gujan spoke loudly to him, explaining that important people would arrive soon and then they would get time off. Yanhao climbed the ladder and responded, "Okay." Gujan added sternly that if Yanhao caused any trouble, he wouldn't forgive him. Yanhao climbed to a high place where he could overlook the entire city. Seeing this scene, he couldn't help but remember what had happened 6 months ago, the Red Mist outbreak, which turned most cities into wastelands inhabited by beasts. Along with the Red Mist appeared a mysterious red tower. The survivors had no choice but to hide at distant borders, far from the tower and the Red Mist, to survive. He also could not forget that monster, wondering if that creature was still out there. Although Gujan appeared cold on the outside, he was actually someone who cared deeply for others. During a break, he carefully reminded them that there was a special response unit outside, so their border patrol was just for show. He pointed out that if even the special forces couldn't hold the line, what could low-level patrol soldiers like them do? Another soldier was puffing on a cigarette and responded, asking if this was the famous special response team and how they could have been overrun. The soldier beside him agreed, asking if the captain was joking. The reason the two of them thought this way was because both had witnessed their unit crushing monstrous beasts effortlessly whenever they came across them. Meanwhile, Yanhao remained thoughtful, as if lost in his own world. After all this time, he still really hated the smell of red mist. This kind of mist stimulated the primal bloodlust instinct in creatures, causing them to attack each other. Suddenly, from afar, he saw the tip of the tower gradually appear red. He wondered if the red mist had dissipated, but upon reflection, this didn't seem plausible. Yanhao considered another cause. Something was rushing toward them. A soldier also noticed and quickly called out to Gujan, telling the captain that something was happening and to look quickly. But Gujan didn't seem to grasp the gravity of the situation, asking what was going on and accusing them of making a mountain out of a molehill. Everyone began to fidget anxiously, wondering how the red mist could be spreading there already. Very quickly, everyone saw the special task force running toward them. The captain was from the special task force. Gujan quickly stepped forward and asked what exactly was happening. A member of the special task force hurriedly told them to retreat immediately. Seeing the red mist begin to envelop everyone, Gujan quickly grabbed the walkie-talkie and shouted loudly for everyone to retreat and withdraw quickly. Just as he was about to turn and walk away, his coat was seized by something like claws, and Gujan screamed in terror. Looking at the fierce, purebred creature before him, Gujan felt that he was done for, completely doomed. Only Yanhao, standing high above and still unaffected, kept hearing panicked voices telling people to run quickly because they were coming. Without much thought, he dashed down to the ground where the red mist was gradually spreading and covering everything. The moment he landed, Yanhao took down a purebred beast, regarding killing them as his own achievement, and counting one down. After finishing the first one, the second purebred beast targeted him. Of course, his tally increased to 2 down. At the same time, Yanhao absorbed all their energy after they died. This made him very happy, thinking it was very good. After absorbing this one, his strength increased a bit, and he wondered what would happen if he absorbed a few more. After a while, sweeping the ground revealed many purebred beasts lying scattered. He counted 3, 4, 5, 6. Yanhao grew more and more enthusiastic as he killed, telling them not to let him down. But suddenly, a tremendous force shot straight through the bodies of the pure berserk beasts. Yanhao cautiously glanced toward the source of that energy, wondering who it was. The person appearing was a white-haired girl holding a modern gun. She was none other than Song Ruer, captain of the Border Bloodstrike task force. The problem was that it seemed she had also seen Yanhao. Seeing this, he immediately raised his guard, cursing that she was from the special forces, and he had to quickly retreat. Song Ruer seemed uninterested in him, and quickly ordered her subordinates not to let any escape and to eliminate them all. The special forces responded without hesitation, confirming they understood. The next second, Yanhao was surrounded by the special forces. He panicked and raised both hands in surrender, shouting not to shoot and explaining he was a lower-ranking soldier of the patrol team. Just as he said this, an order came to fire immediately at the target. The last word Yanhao uttered was a confused question before the pure berserk beast behind him was riddled with holes from gunfire. The special forces, highly professional, reported that the target had been eliminated. Song Ruer's footsteps drew closer and closer to Yanhao. She coldly asked him where his weapon was. Yanhao's mind grew chaotic as he thought about the trouble he was in. Seeing this, a member of the special forces quickly reported that all units should withdraw from the outpost to the temporary defensive line. Thus, Yanhao was taken back to the base, a place guarded extremely strictly where, without permission from the chief officer, no one else was allowed in. Here, Song Ruer carefully reviewed the situation of the special forces team. The outpost suffered 37 casualties, including 2 deaths in the blood sacrifice squad and 30 deaths in the patrol team. This was the personnel loss report for the sudden incident. Only after a while did Yanhao quietly speak up, asking why he was being detained, and pointing out he was also a victim. Having just finished reviewing the report, Song Ruer coldly presented the evidence, stating that he left the team without permission for 2 hours. And after he returned, a bloody riot broke out. She asked why he didn't feel the need to explain himself at all. Yanhao's mind was racing non-stop. He had to figure out a way to fool them. He began stammering that he just dozed off a bit next to the rubble, and had already informed their team leader. Suddenly, a soldier quickly raised his hand and spoke loudly, telling the commander that this guy was always late for missions, but the team leader always covered for him. Yanhao was truly mortified, thinking what a jerk. He quickly shot a deadly glare at the other soldier, silently threatening that if he said nonsense, he would kill him. Another soldier immediately protested, telling them not to falsely accuse the team leader. After hearing this, Song Ruer felt very uneasy, commenting that it seemed the patrol team still had many problems to resolve. At this moment, Gujan, who was heavily bandaged in the hospital, suddenly sneezed with a resounding sound. The soldier beside him quickly asked if the captain was okay. The doctor, reviewing the results, concluded not to worry because he wasn't going to die, and all the tests were fairly normal. However, the soldier didn't quite trust this result and asked if it was really considered normal like this. On Yanhao's side, the atmosphere remained extremely tense. Song Ruer quickly found his information. His file showed that just 3 months ago, he had completed basic training. She noted that in the recent battle, even their special response team lost 2 members, so it was surprising he survived. Upon hearing this, Yanhao kept thinking of a plausible scenario in his mind, explaining that he was afraid of dying, that he used to act in school plays so his hands and feet were more agile than others, and when he saw the red mist approaching, he ran ahead immediately, without hesitation. Song Ruer asked him directly if he was afraid of dying. Then why did he choose to join the army, wondering if he had some other motive? This remark successfully silenced Yanhao, leaving him speechless. He began to recall his long journey. During the 6 months searching for Shiao, he continuously killed and absorbed low-level mutant beasts, gradually learning to control his bestial transformation and revert back to human form. For half a year, he was like a lone wolf avoiding crowds, using the most foolish method to search every fragment of the ruins and inquiring everywhere humans gathered. Seeing that he did not answer, Song Ruer immediately thought the truth was exactly as he said. She was a bit angry and scolded him loudly, saying that being a soldier yet fearing death and deserting his post without reporting was unacceptable, asking if he already knew the consequences clearly at this point. Yanhao really wanted to know if he was going to be executed by firing squad. She didn't answer immediately, but came close to Yanhao's ear and asked him what happened to his hands. Hearing this, Yanhao realized he could no longer hide it. Acknowledging that they had already seen it, Song Ruer began to question further, demanding to know why he had fabricated these lies and what exactly his purpose was. Suddenly, the ground began to shake violently, and everything started to collapse gradually. Song Ruer vaguely wondered if it was an earthquake. But above all, Yanhao was the one who clearly understood what was happening. He knew this feeling was familiar. He panicked, bolting upright from his chair despite being tied up, and shouted loudly to hurry because a large number of mutated beasts were approaching. But what Song Ruer cared about at that moment was that he dared to try to escape right in front of her. As soon as she finished speaking, she quickly lunged at Yanhao, pinning him down and pressing his head against the ground, asking if he treated her like air. The soldiers nearby, seeing the ground crack under the pressure of her pressing, worriedly tried to intervene, telling the commander the ground was splitting open and to please apply a little less force. No sooner had they finished speaking than the ground around them collapsed immediately. They cried out that it was about to cave in and called for help. After some time passed, fortunately, everyone was unharmed. A soldier, worried and confused, asked where they were. Yanhao still lay there, answering him that they had fallen down there. Song Ruer remained extremely calm while handling the situation. It was very dark there, so preparations were made to illuminate the area. The Special Forces team members also cooperated very well, confirming yes. The soldiers who had just seen Yanhao immediately felt annoyed, thinking he was truly a comet because, as long as he was around, nothing good would ever happen. Hearing this, the commander was not angry but just told him to survive and get out first before complaining. The soldiers then asked again if that meant they couldn't get out. Of course, Yanhao didn't think so, or rather, not exactly. A glowing stick was taken out. Seeing the entire space there, the soldiers could not help but exclaim that it was a maze dug by mutated beasts. Song Ruer also put down her weapon and instructed everyone to remain calm and to check which weapons were still usable. She took out another gun and carefully reminded everyone to maintain a firm formation and not to expose their backs. Suddenly, the wind outside began to pick up and grew stronger by the minute. Yanhao also sensed that something about this was unusual. A soldier asked him what was wrong. Yanhao quickly responded that there was the sound of wind coming from the other side. Hearing this, the soldier brightened immediately, reasoning that if there was wind, then there must be a way out. He said he would go check it out and quickly went toward the source of the sound, growing even more excited as he approached, confirming there was indeed wind. He praised Yanhao, saying he might not have many skills, but his talent for escaping danger was truly top-notch, and called out to the commander that there was wind over there while he was engrossed in talking. Certain that there was a path ahead, he had no idea that behind him appeared a huge monster eager to devour him. Yanhao saw this and shouted loudly for him to lie down. No sooner had he finished speaking than the monster was shot in half by Song Ruer, and blue liquid began to continuously drip down. The soldiers were immediately reminded that the liquid from the armor was corrosive and that they should not let it get close to them. Song Ruer took great responsibility in giving careful instructions and added that without her orders, no one was to act on their own. The patrol soldiers listened and did not dare to speak further, responding with affirmative acknowledgement. At this moment, Song Ruer turned to Yanhao and said that it seemed he was very good at avoiding risks, telling him that when he got outside, he must explain his situation clearly to her. Yanhao smiled outwardly without saying anything. But inside he was very perplexed, thinking that she knew his secret but wasn't speaking it plainly. He wondered what her intention was. Suddenly, everyone began to stir, asking what that sound was and noting that something was approaching. What approached were three monsters appearing simultaneously, bearing their fangs at them. The soldiers couldn't help but curse, asking why there were so many insects this time. Yanhao also felt some worry, thinking this was going to be a problem. A swarm of giant, grotesque-bodied insects charged straight toward them. Immediately, someone fired shots to push the swarm of insects back. Song Ruer took the gun and led from the front to clear the way, while Yanhao protected the rear. When Yanhao saw that the swarm of insects stopped chasing them, it was very puzzled. But Song Ruer said not to stop and to keep running. Yanhao carefully observed behind him and guessed that it seemed the swarm of insects had stopped. Suddenly, someone's voice rang out, telling them to look ahead quickly. A ferocious, pure-blooded beast insect with a gigantic body was blocking their exit. The helmeted soldiers, scared, stammered that this was the overlord level. Yanhao looked at the strange beast before him, confirmed that this one was absorbing the red mist. The ferocious, pure-blooded beast insect opened its mouth wide and continuously absorbed the red mist into its body. He thought this was not good, realizing it had turned that red mist into energy. Yanhao's expression changed immediately, and he shouted for everyone to be alert, warning that thing was very dangerous. Song Ruer raised her gun and immediately fired a blast of power straight at the beast. The ferocious, pure-blooded beast insect used the energy absorbed from the red mist to attack Yanhao and his group. The two streams of power from Song Ruer and the ferocious, pure-blooded beast insect clashed and rushed toward each other's side. The ferocious, pure-blooded beast insect was hit by the attack and cried out in pain. As the beast's power approached Song Ruer, she stood frozen in place out of fear. Seeing this, Yanhao shouted loudly for her to get out of the way. Then he charged forward, using his hand to block that enormous power. Song Ruer anxiously called out his name, but before she could finish, Yanhao cut her off, telling her to wait until they had survived this.